And now, coming to you live from Huntsville Attic Studios, it's Pop Culture Philosophers. And here are your hosts, Rockin, Robbie, Billups, and John Hammertime Holshoe.
Hey everyone, it's the Pop Culture Philosophers, coming to you always from the Huntsville Attic. Tonight, we're talking about Marvel on film. That's right, Marvel Comics on the big screen. I'm John Hammertime Holshoe. Joining me always, Rockin' Robbie Billups.
Oh, yeah, that's me. How are you doing, John?
I am doing fantastic. I would say marvelous.
Oh, marvelous. That's funny. Yeah, that's right. We're talking about Marvel movies, and here in the Huntsville Attic, we have with us our esteemed PCP colleagues, Justin Goldsmith.
Hi.
And Jonathan Strickland.
Hello.
Hello. Good to see you guys here in Huntsville Attic. John, Marvel movies. I'm super excited. I know these guys are because of their enthusiastic introductions. But, dude, I'm super pumped, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's start. I'm going to start off a little bit about history of Marvel themselves. You know, I think a lot of people tuning in, listening, Marvel fanatics in the first place, or, you know, they like Marvel on the big screen. But if you don't know anything about Marvel started in 1939 as Timely Publications. In the 50s, they become known as Atlas Comics. And the modern Marvel we know came about in the 60s, and that's when they brought about Fantastic Four, and that, of course, was Stan Lee, Jack Kirby.
Jack Derby.
Jack Derby, baby.
Yeah, Jack Derby's a different
Derby
guy. He was
too.
from, yeah. And Steve Ditko. So they get in, of course, Spider-Man, X-Men, all these great properties. Did pretty well until in the 90s when there was kind of a there was a lot of comics had faltered. The comic industry had took a dive in the 90s, and that's when poor Marvel had to file bankruptcy. So they filed bankruptcy in 96, but in 97 they merged with Toy Biz, the very successful Toy Biz, who at the time a lot of their success was licensing Marvel properties as action figures. So they kind of needed Marvel to do well. So they did a kind of a reverse merger. I mean, it was a merger, but Toy Biz was successful, Marvel not so much. So they merged in the 90s. And then, more recently, they were acquired by Walt Disney. That was actually in 2009. They were acquired by Disney.
That's impressive, considering he's been dead for a while.
Yeah. He when he got up out of the grave, was like, I want that comic company. And they went back. Then he went back to slumber.
So important to him.
It was. He's like, I want Spider-Man and
It's a good move, though.
the Wolverines.
Why would Disney not want Marvel, though? I mean, it makes total business sense. I mean, they already have one of the biggest girl brands, quote unquote, if you will, with the Disney princesses.
Spider-Man. I mean,
You know? And the biggest boy brand was Spider-Man, and so why not take Spider-Man?
Oh, you're right. I mean, Disney themselves, they own a lot of great properties. They just don't own they don't own any comics per se or comic properties. And obviously, superheroes being the big thing, it makes sense for Disney to acquire them.
And then shortly after, of course, they take over Star Wars as well. And
yeah.
it just makes total business sense. Now, we know that right before Marvel was acquired by Disney, they started self-financing and producing their own films. Now, Marvel Studios has existed in one form or another since what, John, the 80s or the 90s or something?
Marvel Studios technically was formed in like 96, 97.
And it was like Marvel Films or something like that.
Yeah, shortly after the Toy Biz merger.
So they've always had a say in most of their properties being translated into film. So every Marvel film, in a way, is a true Marvel film. However, let's talk about the outside, when they started with Iron Man, it was the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's take some moments to talk about the Marvel films outside of the cinematic universe. Things like, of course, Fox's X-Men films, Sony's Spider-Man films, Universal's Hulk films, and, of course, Daredevil and Ghost Rider and Blade and all kinds of fun stuff like that, right? So first of all, what are your thoughts on these other Marvel films, Justin?
Oh, you were looking at Strickland. I thought you were going to go to him first.
That's how I like to mess with people on the show.
I will start off by saying I haven't seen any of the Blade movies somehow. And we talked about this earlier. I don't
Get
know.
off the damn show. How are you on the show?
I don't know how I haven't seen them, but I just have never made time to. Daredevil was really bad. I haven't seen Elektra, to my knowledge.
You're not missing anything. You're good.
So you remember most of them being bad?
Yeah, The Punisher was really good.
Which one? The Thomas Jane one?
Yeah, the Thomas Jane one. I almost watched the Dolph Lundgren one from '89 the other day.
One of their first forays into making movies, actually. Yeah. You should watch it, just to make your own mind up, and just because it's. I honestly haven't seen The Punisher since I was like a child, like 10, 11, whenever it came out, on VHS. Like
Thomas Jane or
no, the Dolph one, man,
okay.
like the one with the Dolph, and so I can't really. I just remember being very confused that he didn't actually wear the suit when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Have any of you seen the one from the 40s? I think when they did a Captain America movie.
Oh, the serial? No.
Yeah.
No. That was actually the first thing that Timely ever did, licensed out for a film or anything like that, was the Captain America serial. And no, I haven't seen it. No,
I didn't. I wasn't even aware of it until the other day, but it seems like a really cool thing to watch.
Speaking of really cool things to watch, Jonathan, what do you think about the non-cinematic universe Marvel films?
Well, I just appreciate y'all dropping this knowledge on me. I didn't know any of that either. So
Really?
I'm soaking that in. But movies before Marvel Studios. We were there with the big. You remember X-Men came out? Everyone was so hyped when Spider-Man came out. Those movies were huge. They did so well at the box office, and I still love those movies. I'd have to agree with Justin. There's a lot of stinkers as well, but those X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies, it justified all those bad movies for me.
Yeah, absolutely. What you guys are saying, there are some bad ones, Justin, and I know those are the ones that you were remembering, but like Strickland said, there's some good ones, dude. The Spider-Man films, the X-Men films, they are way better than people remember nowadays, and I hate how fans seem to misremember their own feelings about a movie or how good a movie was. Speaking of misremembering your feelings about that person, Holshoe, what do you think about the non-cinematic universe Marvel films?
I think the Blade and Up, which again are associated with Marvel Studios, but aren't Marvel Studios, not Marvel Cinematic Universe, which again started with Iron Man, but you do have the Spider-Man films, which I think are great.
Yeah.
The X-Men films, which are above great, and you also had the Blade movies were great. My favorite probably is definitely the X-Men films. People bash and like, Fox, give back, the properties, etc. And maybe they made some missteps with Fantastic Four, but the X-Men films, I think, are phenomenal. And that's the first time you get to see a good team-up of comic properties work successfully. And I especially love Days of Future Past.
Yeah, 12 years before Avengers, that was your first super team Marvel film, basically. John, you touched on, actually, the next thing I wanted to talk about, the X-Men films. It seems like nowadays people go, well, the X-Men films kind of suck. They need to go back to Marvel, blah, 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 blah. We're going to call bullshit here at Pop Culture Philosophers because the majority of X-Men films, and I'm not considering the Wolverine movies as part of the X-Men films, all right? So just the films that are X-Men, no. Like X-Men 3, I would say is a stinker, but the rest of them are actually pretty solid. Bryan Singer has a great vision on what the X-Men should be, even for a non-super nerd, big non-super comic book fan. But I think he's got a brilliant vision. The X-Men films, are they better than people remember, Jonathan?
They are way better than people remember. They seem to catch a lot of flack, and we were talking about this the other day. It's with these movies, the X-Men, the original X-Men, the original Spider-Man movies. Now that they're kind of redoing those things, people are like, oh, yeah, and they're finally going to do it right. But no one was complaining back then about it being wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just don't get it. I love those movies, cherish them. We'll always can watch them whenever and enjoy them.
When everybody first sees Spider-Man in that Civil War trailer, they're like, they finally got the costume right. I'm like, no, dude, we all said that when Tobey Maguire shows up as Spider-Man.
That suit was amazing.
Speaking of amazing suits, Justin, what do you think? X-Men films, are they better than people remember?
Yeah, I didn't mention it when I was talking about it because I was focusing on the bad stuff, which isn't like me. But the X-Men films were ridiculously good when they came out. And I think they still have a lot of staying power. I actually watched all 3 of them a few months ago. Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier.
Yeah, I think there's 5 of them, by the way.
Oh, my God.
I think there's 5 of them.
Well, I'm talking about the original 3.
Oh, yeah, the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just
Patrick Stewart was
between
perfect.
Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen,
That's my boy.
as Magneto.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and it's almost been done to death now. But Wolverine,
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman
Yeah,
is
so
Jackman is
awesome.
Wolverine.
he was so good as Wolverine, and it's like people are getting tired of seeing him now, but it's so
No
good.
way.
Yeah.
No way.
Real quick. Tobey Maguire, was he a good Spider-Man or a bad Spider-Man, John?
Great Spider-Man.
Really? Why?
I don't wait. Okay, Spider-Man or Peter Parker?
Peter Parker / Spider-Man.
Because I think
I
it's-
wasn't disagreeing. I
Yeah.
was just asking
Oh,
you to elaborate.
When they first announced him, I was like, he doesn't fit what I think Peter Parker looks like in my mind or how he sounds like on the cartoon. But on the big screen, I thought he did a really great job, especially in the suit. I mean, again, a lot of it comes to the suit and the film itself. Sam Raimi did a phenomenal job.
Absolutely. Strickland?
Yeah, I agree with John. I didn't envision him as Spider-Man first, but he played the awkward part. He played the nerdy part. He played the Spider-Man part well.
He did. I think he cries a little too much. Speaking of that, Justin, what do you think? Tobey Maguire, was he good or bad?
No, I liked him at the time. I liked him better than Andrew Garfield, actually. Oh, that's another one I haven't seen. I actually haven't seen Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Me neither.
But, yeah, no, I really dug him as Peter Parker.
All right, then. You mentioned Hugh Jackman, Justin,
Mm-hmm.
and we just talked about Toby, right? And, of course, Blade is really the moment where Marvel starts getting it right. So, real quick, who is more important to the future of Marvel films? Who's more important to superhero films? Tobey Maguire, Wesley Snipes, or Hugh Jackman? Justin.
The future starting now?
No,
or
like who
when
is more important to the way that it developed?
Yeah, influential.
I'll say, I don't know. There's two different ways you can go with that because Wesley Snipes made comic movies cool, and Tobey Maguire made them blockbusters.
Yeah.
So,
But Hugh
financially-
Jackman has a lasting power amongst
Oh, yeah.
fans.
No,
Even
he's-
the fans that are like the X-Men movies are kind of bad. They still love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman is like the spine of the Marvel films
Yeah.
of the last 15 years.
I would definitely say he was the RDJ before RDJ.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Strickland, what do you think?
Tobey Maguire, like he said, was the blockbuster. Hugh Jackman, to me, he is the embodiment of it. We're forever going to remember him as Wolverine. I love Wesley Snipes, and I'm thankful that he set it up. He set it up for everyone, and he may not get as much praise as that, but he did. And when he introduced Blade, and that movie was awesome, but it has to be Hugh Jackman because look at him in was it 99 or 2000 when X-Men 1 came out?
2000.
2000.
Okay, look at him. Go back and watch that one, and then look at him now. He looks younger. Like he's that jacked.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like he looks that
Yeah,
good.
He's
I'm
got
like,
Jackman.
Yeah. The more physically in shape you are, the younger you do look. The big point when we met Jason David Frank, is that his name?
Yeah.
When we met him, he looks younger than Robbie and I, even though he's older than us. He's in way better shape than us.
Yeah.
JDF,
Not for
son.
long. Not for long, JDF. You better step up your game. Anyway, John, what would you say? Everybody seems to be. I would agree with these guys. It's Hugh Jackman. What do you think?
Hugh Jackman, I think. I do like Hugh Jackman, and he's had this great staying power. And again, he's going to be in a couple more films, apparently Apocalypse and another Wolverine film, even if it's a small part in Apocalypse. But I think it was such a turning point for Marvel films when Blade came out that we owe a lot to Willie Mays Hayes.
I agree.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely.
that's by the way. I don't want you to misrepresent me. I didn't pick Jackman. I picked Wesley Snipes.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Because
Absolutely.
Jackman, it wasn't the actual turning point because he was in there with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen and Famke Jensen as
Yes.
Phoenix and all these other big actors. But yeah,
Didn't mean to misrepresent you, sir. Speaking of misrepresentation, why can't they get the Fantastic Four right, Jonathan?
Ooh. It's a hard bunch of people. You got these 4 different people who are extremely different.
How different are they? Are they
Yeah.
different?
They're different. I just want to make that clear. And I think we talked about this earlier. It was hard to do them back then, and even now it's even harder because the culture's changed even more. So doing those characters, it has to be a lot more sci-fi, and we didn't get that. We got a taste of that with the new one, but we were talking about how the director he didn't get the script that he wanted. That could have been awesome. I don't know if you're going to touch on that later or what, but yeah, that's what I think.
Well, I would say definitely I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan, and that's absolutely my favorite comic book. And I would say that you're right on the money. It's like they have to be science fiction. They can't be the typical superhero fare, because the Fantastic Four hit big in the early 60s because it wasn't the typical superhero fare. They are explorers. They are adventurers. And I think that is kind of the way they need to take it. They need to go a more science fiction. You remember the way the Brendan Fraser Mummy was made?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fun adventure film.
Yes.
Something like that, but very sci-fi. And I think Chris Rock is onto something. J.J. Abrams would be a good pick. Anyway, Justin, why do they not get the Fantastic Four movies right ever?
I don't know. It seems like they don't have the budget when they need it, and when they do get the budget, the studio screws it up. So maybe they should just make an independent Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, like
I
the
think
Roger
they
Corman
did that
one.
with the Roger Corman one. That leads me into a good segue, John, and you can continue on with the Fantastic Four theme. Let us know why it doesn't work, and then lead us into things like maybe the Roger Corman Fantastic Four film.
I think just like you guys touched on, they want to package it. They're like, we want the success of X-Men. We want the success of the Avengers. So let's package this as a superhero movie. But that's not what Fantastic Four is. It should be a sci-fi film. And I think the first half of the new film was fantastic, and then it goes to crap. Whether it was a director, whether it was a studio, whatever it was, it definitely had issues. But again, it's a science fiction. But maybe people don't want that right now, or maybe the studios don't want that because it doesn't necessarily make money. Speaking of the Fantastic Four, like you said, they tried this initially. Roger Corman did a Fantastic Four film years and years ago that eventually supposedly didn't. It was never released, but we've all seen it. Most of us have seen it.
It wasn't even intended to be released.
Yeah.
It was only made to keep the rights. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really is a terrible film. They didn't have a budget. I think Johnny Storm, isn't he light up? I think he
Like once.
one
At
time.
the very, very end.
The very
I
end.
was impressed by the Thing's costume for the time.
That was all the budget.
Yeah, that was all the budget.
They use.
And there's definitely been some missteps prior to Marvel Studios that was formed in the mid '90s. It feels like the Marvel properties, whoever licensed them out, they didn't take the risk, or they didn't know what they were getting into, or I was like, this is how I feel Captain America should be. And Marvel had little control over that. And you've had a lot of crap films. And again, besides the Fantastic Four, you also had The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. And then in 1990, you had a Captain America film, which actually was released in the UK theatrically, but not in the US.
As odd as that sounds.
Yeah, Captain America went straight to DVD here.
Oh my goodness.
And so, again, prior to Marvel Studios, Marvel Studios was formed in the 90s. Even though the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more newer, the studio itself started in the 90s. And again, they had a lot of input on X-Men, on Blade, on Spider-Man, etc. Even though they weren't the main, component of it. But it definitely, prior to that, man, there was a lot of more missteps than anything.
Point out real quick, I don't know if this was pre-Blade or not, but do you remember the Nick Fury movie with David Hasselhoff?
Oh yeah.
Made for TV
bad.
movie? That's a bad one.
Yeah, that was bad.
But I would say Howard the Duck. I think that's terrible. If you're a fan of the comic book in any kind of way, the original Steve Gerber comic book, Howard the Duck is a terrible, terrible movie. I know a lot of people like it. It's a cult favorite, but it's bad. It's a bad movie, guys. Speaking of bad, what are your favorite villains in a Marvel film? Any Marvel film goes, guys. What are your favorite villains? Justin.
Well, I think I really like John Travolta, and no.
Okay. Thank God.
Ultron was a really cool idea for a villain. The idea kind of fell a little short in the execution, but it was a really cool idea. Loki, Tom Hiddleston's just perfect for that. But my favorite is from Winter Soldier, Hydra.
Just Hydra.
Because,
Nice.
I mean, it's
Hydra.
spoilers, by the way. Extreme
Yeah, I
spoilers.
was gonna
If you haven't
say.
seen the movie or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you're behind on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Wait a minute. So Hydra's the bad guy in a Captain America film? The bad entity behind everything?
But when it completely blew up S.H.I.E.L.D., split it in not even half, it just obliterated it and completely turned the show on its head and made it fantastic. That whole S.H.I.E.L.D. story is like one of the coolest things in the Marvel Universe for me.
Absolutely. What about you, Strickland?
Favorite villain? I'm gonna have to go with Magneto.
Nice.
Magneto's my all-time favorite villain. Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender we actually get to see two different people play this role, which is cool. I love the character because he's extremely misunderstood. He's genuinely suffered. Like, he's genuinely lost people he's loved. And I think that's why he's such a conflicted character, and I think that's why I enjoy him so much.
Oh, that's a great answer. I couldn't agree with you more, absolutely. John, what do you think?
I would say probably on the big screen, I really loved Winter Soldier. He was just so badass. Plus, it being Bucky. But other than that, like you said, Magneto as a character, you do have this conflict. And again, he feels the mutants are being oppressed, and he's trying to stand up for the mutants, and he thinks they are the future. So you can't help but like Magneto in the comics, and it translates well to film. And both phenomenal actors. Magneto on the big screen has done so well.
I couldn't agree with you guys more. For me, right here, I have on my list, I got Loki. Which Justin mentioned, and Loki is anything but low key in those movies. He's amazing. He's the best part of Thor and Avengers and Thor 2 for sure.
And one thing that you have to mention, Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth, they deliver those lines like nobody else could. Like, if they'd picked anybody else to do those lines, it would have been totally crap.
It's great. It's a great film, and Thor is a good film. And Kenneth Branagh directing it, Hiddleston, Hemsworth, like you said, it's like watching superhero Shakespeare. It's like if Shakespeare wrote a superhero film, it's Thor.
And not every actor can do that.
It's great. And also, straight up, my number one favorite is Magneto. Like Ian McKellen's Magneto, you cannot top. Nobody has played a comic book villain as good as Ian McKellen's Magneto. But I want to give a special props out. Even though a lot of people don't like his costume, Willem Dafoe killed it as Norman Osborn.
Yes.
I was going to say that for my second. Yeah, that's what I had down.
He killed it.
He was
great.
creepy, dude.
Real quick before we move on, because we're running out low on time. Speaking of time, villains that they should have used that they shouldn't have yet, I will say Kang. Speaking of time, and Cassandra Nova for an X-Men film would be great. And the worst, I think we could all agree, maybe Doctor Doom has been the worst interpretation of a Marvel villain into film. Let's move on real quick. Social media. That's right. We asked everybody on Facebook and other social medias, what are your favorite Marvel films? Here are some of the responses. Mark Lanier from RCR Review says Winter Soldier. Adam Lander says Winter Soldier. Alicia Mayro says Thor. Travis Whitworth says The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Ray Scanian from Overdraft Pictures, check him out on Facebook, says Deadpool, Winter Soldier, and Ant-Man. Michael Finley, the beloved, says The Avengers and Captain America 2. That would be Winter Soldier. Brandon Whaley says Winter Soldier, Deadpool, or X-Men First Class. And Rich Partain of Yellowhammer Brewery fame says Deadpool, Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Jesus Christ, guys, you really like Winter Soldier.
I really think they're talking about Hydra, not just Winter Soldier.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for checking in with us on Facebook and Instagram. Coming up, we're going to be talking about our favorite costumes and, of course, our favorite Marvel Studios films and just Marvel Studios in general. We'll be right back on Pop Culture Philosophers after this break.
Hey everyone, Hammertime Holshoe here. I want to take a moment to talk to you about our YouTube channel. Be sure to find the Pop Culture Philosophers and subscribe for all new and exclusive content each and every week. We have a ton of programs for you and pleasure, including Robbie Rants, movie reviews, super mythology, PCP Top 5s, and the new smash PCP on the Spot. Be sure to subscribe to the Pop Culture Philosophers on YouTube. Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. Tonight we are talking about Marvel films. We are here live in the Huntsville Attic. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups with my host, John Hammertime Holshoe.
Thank you.
And guest, Justin Goldsmith.
Hello.
And Jonathan Strickland.
Hey, yo.
And we, as I have already said, have been talking about Marvel films. So real quick, I want to ask you guys, they're superheroes. They wear costumes. What are the best costumes in a Marvel film? Justin.
Iron Man.
Easy choice.
He's my guy. Iron Man suit is like the coolest thing. Nick Fury dress is pretty cool too. I think actually the best costume though, since Iron Man is actually he is the armor and the armor is him.
Yeah.
It's not a costume. I think the best costume though is Captain America from Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah, that's okay. You like that one?
Yeah.
It's based on the Commander Rogers costume.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's a pretty
Yeah.
cool one. It's darker colors, a little less red on it. Like really, really cool one. I like that actually. Yeah. John, what do you think? What's the best costume?
I was gonna say probably Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Oh yes.
Of course, I love the new Spider-Man as well. Andrew Garfield draws a lot. There's some changes, but it was something that, honestly, Iron Man on the big screen, oh, that'd be an awesome costume on the big screen. Spider-Man, oh, that can't work on the big screen. Well, yes, they did it, and they did it well. And I was going to give runners-up probably to Deadpool. Whether you enjoyed the movie or not, I thought the costume really nailed the actual comic book.
It was Deadpool, yeah.
I completely forgot about Deadpool when I was doing this entire rundown for this entire podcast.
Oh well, you better remember it now from the future going onward. The future going onward? That doesn't make sense.
Days of Future Past.
Speaking of, okay, Strickland, what's the best costume in a Marvel film?
Okay, so the Wolverine, when he goes to Japan, there's a deleted scene on the Blu-ray where at the end he actually gets the yellow suit from the animated show, but it's not like
the yellow
that.
and brown one.
Yeah, it's more like that, and it looks good. It looks really good. I wish they would have used it. I know that's not technically him not wearing it, but
okay. What's the best actual costume they've used? Thor. You like the Thor costume?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm
Those
going
arms look so
man.
good.
Yeah, they do. I'm going to agree with Justin and John with Iron Man and Spider-Man. Like, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man costume was so good. Like, what? They changed the webs instead of black, they're silver or something. It looks fantastic. And when he goes black costume, that looks great as well. Love the way they handled that. Iron Man. Dude, it's spot on. It's just like the comic book. It's so badass. And let's go on a little bit further. War Machine is even more badass because I've always been more of a fan of the War Machine costume. And War Machine, especially in Iron Man 2, looks fantastic. Another one I'm going to throw out, and I haven't seen this movie yet because it comes out this weekend. Black Panther's costume looks amazing,
From the
guys.
trailer, yeah, it
oh
looks
my
great.
God.
It's alright.
Looks so good.
I'm kidding. It looks
I am
amazing.
such a Black Panther fanboy. I cannot wait.
So we talked a little bit about the start of Marvel Comics, but I want to talk a little bit about Marvel Studios. Like I said, the studio was formed in the mid-'90s. Actually, this started after the acquisition of, or the merger, I should say, of Toy Biz. One of the co-founders was Avi Arad, who was one of the co-owners of Toy Biz.
Yes.
And he was really influential in getting the Marvel properties back and making Marvel Studios. So they formed Marvel Studios, and the first property they bring to the big screen is Blade with New Line Cinema. And in 2004, they started self-financing their own films, first being Iron Man. A lot of people love him. A lot of people hate him. It depends on your point of view of him, because he was really influential in bringing these properties to the big screen, and he was a very important figure. However, he was more than just a producer. He started to interfere with things. For example, the reason Venom was forced into Spider-Man 3 was him. And love it or hate it, he wanted to sell. Venom was a popular character. He knew that. And Venom, he wanted to sell like Venom toys and stuff like that. And that's why number 3, that's why Spider-Man 3 feels like there's too many characters in it. I'm going to say the same thing about Amazing Spider-Man number 2. There's just too much going on. But he was influential in a big part of Marvel Studios. And he unfortunately, he did leave, whether you like him or not, he did leave Marvel altogether in 2006.
Yeah, he left after Kevin Feige got appointed, right? And they were having disagreements on Avi Arad, however, I don't really know how you actually. He's a great guy. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really like this guy. I'm a big movie collector, or at least I was, right? And I would collect all these Blu-rays and all these DVDs, right? And he was on all of these special features for these Marvel movies. He really was super influential in getting Marvel properties on the screen, because we were talking about how in the 80s and 90s, Marvel was just licensing these properties out to make money.
Yeah.
They would license this stuff out. They'd get some money. And these guys would never even make this film because the technology was not there, right? So But he was the one that said, no, we need to make films. We need to make sure our characters are represented. And a lot of the fantastic characterization that you get out of like Spider-Man, X-Men, Hulk, the Ang Lee Hulk film, no matter what you think about it, may have a lot of missteps, but it is character-driven as hell, all right? And he really cared about his characters. And one of the reasons why he left is because he wanted more character-driven stories and less like action, and he wanted them to be like not be as powerful as they actually are in the comics. But that was like the big disagreement that he had at the end there, was like he didn't want these characters to be so godlike, so comic book accurate, but they actually were. But dude, John, you're right on point. He is such, even though he's kind of almost reviled nowadays, because Kevin Feige is the new guy. He's the Nick Saban of Hollywood right now. But dude, Avi Arad, dude, my hat's off to you. Seriously, you are a fantastic producer, and I love everything he ever did for Marvel films.
Yeah, if it wasn't for him, I really don't think we would have Marvel Studios, and we wouldn't have what we had. I mean, we'd still probably be in that state where they're still just licensing and have no control, and we're putting out piddly crap.
So real quick, I know you guys, Justin in particular, we don't like to focus on the worst, but before we get into some of the better ideas of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what's the worst movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Strickland?
I did not enjoy Thor 2. I thought it had the potential to be really good and just a lot of plot holes.
Yeah, let's hope that 3's a lot better, but I agree with you. Like 2 is kind of weak. 2 is kind of weak. Speaking of the sequel being weak, Holshoe. What's the worst cinematic universe movie?
I agree 100% with Strickland. Thor 2. It doesn't help that I'm not a big Thor fan. He's, as far as Marvel characters, he's not my favorite, my second favorite, third favorite. He's just not one of my favorite. I did enjoy the first film, though.
Yeah, the first one was amazing.
Not expecting to enjoy the first film as much as I did. I was let down by the second film. And even Portman was like, I'm only doing this damn film because I'm contracted. I don't even want to be here.
Oh, she dropped out for Ragnarok.
Third one, yeah.
Yeah, well, she was only contracted
really?
for 2. And she was pissed that she had to do a second one. She's like, shit, they are doing a second one? I signed this damn piece of paper. So she didn't want to be in there in the theater, and I didn't want to be in the theater either.
Goldsmith, any of the cinematic universe movies you don't like?
Thor 2, it was a little weaker. I enjoyed it a little bit more because I was watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, and it had a cool tie-in.
Great show.
Yeah, I love it.
Are you current on it? Because that's fantastic right now. No
I haven't
lie.
watched this week yet.
Oh, it's so good.
You're right. The Incredible Hulk, though, wasn't
Really
memorable for me. I don't think I've seen it in about 5 years.
All right. Well, okay. Incredible Hulk, you mentioned. All right, here's something. Incredible Hulk has a really good third act, I believe. The fight in Harlem, the Abomination, all that stuff. So good. I think the biggest problem with Marvel's Cinematic Universe films is the third act. They're typically really bad. Even the first Thor movie. You guys all said Thor 2 is pretty rough.
Yeah.
The first Thor movie is great, but the third act is rushed. Iron Man, great movie. Third act is rushed. I think, aside from things like Incredible Hulk and Avengers, the third act is the problem in Marvel films. Anybody else agree with me?
I can see what you're saying, yeah.
Elaborate.
It's a struggle they've been having in the movies because they're now almost redoing some of the, like Iron Man 1 is potentially, it is the same movie as Ant-Man. And so they're just, I don't know. To me, it seems like they're looking to figure out what that third act can be. So it's hard to figure out what it is. So they pull from other stuff.
Yeah, the Marvel films are very cookie cutter.
Right.
You know, like Iron Man was a success. So it makes sense that they would want to cookie cut that. And plus, it is, as David Bass pointed out on the social media today, the heroic journey. Alicia pointed that out too. These films are all based on the heroic journey, the story of the hero. You know, the hero being called, going off on his quest, danger. You know, but the third act is so rushed, so just ugh. It seems like they've had a successful third act with Avengers, with Iron Man 3, with Incredible Hulk. Mimic that.
I'm glad you said Iron Man 3.
Talk about the third act, John. Not John. Justin. Third act. What's the problem with Marvel?
Well, I mean, I really think they... let's see, what were the first 3 It was Iron Man, and then
Iron Man 2,
The Hulk.
Cap, and Thor. And
the
Hulk.
Hulk.
Yeah, and Hulk.
So it was Iron Man, then Hulk, and then Captain.
Then Iron Man 2,
Iron Man
then
2.
then Thor, then Cap.
All right, so they realized that they were kind of seeing it was a cookie cutter. So then it seems like they've just been experimenting with how to end it.
Except for Ant-Man, which is the same ending as Iron Man.
Oddly enough, I haven't seen Ant-Man.
You haven't seen Ant-Man? Drew actually,
Yeah.
good
Did he
old
mention that?
dashing Drew, told me to ask you many Ant-Man questions, and I forgot about that. But he wanted
Yeah.
to throw you on the spot. We'll get to on the spot in just a second. Anyway, John, any thoughts?
Not really. I mean, I don't have a problem with cookie cutter if it works. It does get old though if you're the same company producing the same studio, film with the same. You're just slapping a different character in there. Because even then, I give Ant-Man bonus. I mean, I don't give it as much shit as other people do because I love Paul Rudd. So I'd watch a Paul Rudd
You got a
commercial
lot of
for
crushes
Campbell's. Yeah,
on
I love
actors.
Paul Rudd.
Man crush.
But again, I don't
At
have an issue with
PCP, we just
necessarily.
call it a crush.
Yeah, I don't have necessarily an issue with the third act. I don't have necessarily a problem with any
Don't
of the
give any
films.
spoilers.
So I enjoy them all. I'm going to say that if you take each Marvel film, you can find weaknesses here and there. But my biggest issue with the MCU universe, that Marvel Cinematic Universe, is Rhodes. I wish they didn't replace him. I like the original actor.
You like Terrence Howard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we go, there are no roads.
But I guess he didn't get along with RDJ, and there was that whole thing. So whatever that may be, I really liked him. That was my biggest issue as the replacement.
Speaking of RDJ, and I love it when someone has hit the level of celebrity where they are just initials. Would there be a Marvel Cinematic Universe without Robert Downey Jr., Justin?
If there was one without him, it would be completely different.
It would be way different.
Yeah.
Like without, I think the success of Iron Man, which led to the MCU, is completely dependent on his performance.
Oh, yeah.
I would think so. Strickland, what do you think? Would there be one without him? Is it that important?
It is that important, and I think he knows it, and I think the other actors realize it too. I've watched a lot of interviews lately where they've asked him that question with Chris Evans there and everyone else, and they're like, "Here, what answer for you, Robert? Yes, you paved the path for us." And even so, in that you think about Iron Man, that humor, that kind of humor is in every Marvel movie when you think about it.
Absolutely. They've even changed the character of Tony Stark in the comic books to be more like Robert Downey Jr. Real quick then, a flip side. Will the Marvel Universe cinematically continue without Robert Downey Jr. when he hangs up his iron suit? Strickland.
I think it will. He has paved this path for the Marvel movies, and they're introducing all these awesome new characters to where he can easily hand it off. And even if we're going to get to the point, 20 years from now, they'll probably remake Iron Man with a different, Tony Stark.
Goldsmith, what about you? What do you think?
I'm going to be in that movie. I think it will continue without him, because since 2008, Marvel superhero films have become a new mainstream genre of film. You got your mystery, your action, adventure, and now Marvel movies.
Hammertime. Any thoughts?
I think I'm pretty sure that Kevin Feige, I thought, said that if Robert Downey Jr. were to leave the role, that they for a while just wouldn't have Iron Man films or have him in Avengers. You just wouldn't replace him right away. That he's important as his Tony Stark character, and so I agree with that. I don't think it would have had the success. It would have done well, and I think you would have had more Marvel films, but you wouldn't have what you have now. I think they owe a lot to him, and I think they realize that, and so they're walking on, being careful with that, how they go in the future.
I realized that when I asked you guys what you thought was the worst MCU film, I did not answer. My answer is not Thor 2 or Incredible Hulk. It is Iron Man 2 or Age of Ultron, actually. I think those are the worst. Real quick, though, I got one more question about Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm going to go ahead and say Ed Norton. That's right. Who is the best Banner? Who was the best Bruce Banner? Eric Bana, Ed Norton, or Mark Ruffalo? I say Edward Norton. Strickland, what do you think?
I love Mark Ruffalo, but to me, I was telling you this the other day. I love Edward Norton. I wish he would have stayed. I loved that movie. I think it had a lot of potential, and he didn't get to do what he wanted in that role, which is why it ended up the way it was. I just love that. I love that actor in general. So it's hard. It's hard because I like Mark a lot. I think he's a good Hulk.
What about you, John?
I'm gonna go with Eric Banner. Is it Eric Bana?
Bana.
Eric Bana.
Bana.
I really
Banner.
like him, and the problems with the film aren't his problems. So I really like him. I would have liked to see him do more films. I really like him as an actor. Maybe my probably one issue with him is that I don't think that Banner is supposed to be so damn good looking. Like, I think he's supposed to be a regular looking guy who becomes this badass, and Bana looks like a supermodel. So I'm like, that's maybe stretching it a little bit for a little bit of a crush on him.
I think we found another crush that John has.
But I would have loved to see him do more films as well as be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Speaking of crushes that John has, Goldsmith. Who's the
Meet
best
me
Banner?
after the show. I really do think that Mark Ruffalo is the best, because when I think of Bruce Banner, I think of Bill Bixby from the show. You know, he's kind of nerdy. He's a scientist. He's not a supermodel like Eric Bana, or whenever I think of Ed Norton, I think of American History X. So that's
And not Fight Club.
I was about to say
very
Fight
cool.
Club. But
yeah. But either way, that's not a scientist persona. It's somebody that stomps on somebody's head.
I agree that Ruffalo is probably closer to the comic version of Banner. So
I would
agree
argue
with
that.
you there.
I would argue.
And
I would
also-
say Norton is closer to the comic.
really?
book
A very
Banner.
important
Absolutely.
thing is that his Hulk, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, is the first one to actually use his face for the motion capture for the Hulk.
Well, I mean, Ruffalo was actually really good, and I like the way that Whedon portrays the Hulk in the movie. In the Avengers especially. I don't like Ruffalo in. I don't like him in Age of Ultron as much, but I do like him in the first Avengers movie, and I like Eric Bana as well. And I really think that Ang Lee's Hulk film is underappreciated. I really do.
I do think
it's a psychodrama. It's a psychodrama with a bad ending, okay? Like, I get it. I get that as a comic book film, it falters. But it's like Hulk is one of those things where it's like, okay, the Ang Lee film comes out, and everybody's like, well, it's too much drama. We want more action. So they make the new movie with Ed Norton. He wants more drama. He gets outed, he gets ousted out because... Ousted out? He gets outed. He leaves the project ultimately because he wants more drama and it's more action. And then people nowadays say the Hulk wasn't that great. So what do you want? Do you want the drama? Do you want the action? Like, it's a weird balance that I really think they have to tread with that. And I think that's why they haven't really done a solo Hulk film yet. Plus there's some rights issues with the names or whatever, but not giving shit to any of these guys. I think they're all fantastic. They're all great. I love how Mark in Avengers, when he's on the helicarrier, he's making sure he doesn't bump into people or into things or look over the edge, because he's just like, no, dude.
Yeah,
no.
he's really...
Yeah. But Edward Norton, especially the way he starts off that movie meditating with the metronome,
I love that.
like, that's straight from the comic books.
Yeah,
man.
I love
and
that.
his portrayal is fantastic.
Yeah, he did great.
And I love it.
So we're just talking about different characters who played the Hulk. But I want to know who your favorite main and supporting characters are from the Marvel films. I'm assuming Goldsmith was going to go with RDJ, but we'll come back to you. Let's start with Strickland. Who are your favorite actors from the Marvel properties? And it can be cinematic universe, or it can be X-Men, Spider-Man, etc. Who are your favorites, and maybe your favorite supporting?
Right. We've mentioned a lot of them.
Besides Surrey and McKellen, obviously, you love.
Yeah,
Surrey
yeah,
and
I love them. But I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I love RDJ as Iron Man. I love Chris Evans as Captain America. I think he plays the role very well.
What about supporting? Yeah,
supporting,
who would you say is probably your favorite?
Dude, I love Evan Peters. He plays Quicksilver in the Days of Future Past.
He does a great Quicksilver and will be in Apocalypse.
He will be in the next movie. He has a bigger role apparently, so I'm excited for it.
I love that scene. I was going to say, I haven't seen it. I love that scene with the music. Oh, such a great scene.
Classic.
Robbie, who is your favorite the actors and characters from the Marvel film?
My favorite main actor and character would be Wesley Snipes as Blade. I'm sorry. It's just so cool.
He does a great job as Blade. Maybe it's not 100% comic accurate, but the Blade films are awesome, and Snipes does a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he does, and I just love his Blade. I love it. It's so fantastic.
What about supporting characters?
Pepper Potts, man. Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts.
Oh.
I can't agree more, man. Fantastic. It's good stuff. Like, she brings more to the movie as Pepper Potts than Pepper Potts really actually brings to the comic book. And, dude, like, Pepper Potts is fantastic, and I think we need more. There's nothing more powerful than the fact that Tony Stark, who has his shit together for the most part, right? No. Clay in the putty of putty in the hands of Pepper Potts, and not just because he's in love with her, infatuated with anything, but because he actually legitimately needs her.
He does
in his life, and I think she's a very strong person in these films, and I think she's fantastic.
Now, did you just pick her because you like saying the words Pepper Potts?
Pepper Potts.
Pepper Potts.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about 60s Marvel is all the alliterative names. Scott Summers, Reed Richards, Pepper Potts.
That's why they changed
Bruce
Hulk's
Banner.
name in the show, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, they also
No.
thought Bruce sounded a little effeminate.
Yeah, that's why.
I always thought Justin was kind of an effeminate name. Speaking of which, who are your favorite main... I'm going to go RDJ, big RDJ fan. I know you are. Everybody
Yeah,
loves
of course.
Robert Downey Jr. But who else do you love in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Actors, you think, man, this guy embodies this character.
Well, Robert Downey Jr. was the reason I decided to pursue acting. So yeah, he's my number one.
It's awesome,
my number.
man.
That's a bold statement.
That's awesome.
I mean,
You always told me
the
it was-
first Iron Man movie
yeah.
changed my life for real.
You always told me it was the girl from the Wendy's commercial is why you got into acting.
My number two has got to be and when I was a kid, you guys know I watched a lot of Star Trek when I was growing up and now. When I was a kid and I would see Wolverine, the X-Men.
Wait, what? I'm
When I was a kid and I would see the
Wolverine's in
X-Men.
Star Trek?
What?
I would see
don't
X-Men
watch-
on TV.
Dude, I am signed up, man.
I'm in it.
When I was a kid, I would see the X-Men on TV, and I never really watched it when I was a kid, but I would see the trailer. Professor Xavier, I always thought when I was a kid, man, he looks just like Captain Picard. And I casted Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier when I was 8 years old.
When you had your little
And then they
big
did
casting
it.
agency.
So, he's perfect for that role.
He is great as that role, and he does. I mean, I heard a story. I don't know if it's true or not that he saw himself on or saw an X-Men comic. He's like, "Why am I on the cover of this?" And they're like, "Oh, that's a fictional character."
Yeah.
And so obviously later on, he goes on to play a great Xavier, by the way. So supporting characters, who would you want besides RDJ and Patrick Stewart? Supporting characters that you think, oh, these guys, this is great. Besides Pepper, I'm assuming you're a Pepper Potts fan, just because of the name Pepper Potts.
Yeah, well, out of those bunch, I really like Jarvis the best from the
dude,
Avengers.
nice,
so
nice.
awesome.
Jarvis.
You're right.
Jarvis, yeah. And it's going to be kind of weird now because they changed it to Wednesday is the new, or Friday?
Friday in
Friday.
the comics.
and
Yeah,
then
it's Friday
Jarvis
now.
is now the Vision.
Yeah.
His AI that controls his suit and he talks to it's Friday now.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the ultimate sidekick is an AI.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. What about you, John?
I would say J. Jonah Jameson. As far as
Ooh,
supporting,
that's a good one.
as far
Nice.
as supporting, he did such a
J.K. Simmons.
he did such
yeah.
a great role. I look forward to him being. I guess it's gonna be
Gordon,
Gordon in the DC universe. But he was so great in Spider-Man. As far as my first pick, I probably go with Hugh Jackman. I just love his Wolverine. I'm so happy he's been in every film, or even small like cameos. He's been so awesome. I look forward to his apparent cameo or whatever in Apocalypse, and he's doing another Wolverine film. I can't imagine anybody else playing Wolverine. But first, he's too tall or blah, blah, blah. He's so awesome, and he's freaking jacked. He really is jacked.
Jackman.
Speaking of jacked and Jackman, we're about to go to break, but before we do, we're going to social media. That's right. We asked all the fans, what are your absolute favorite Marvel films? Speaking of jacked, as I said, our gym buddy, Paris.
Oh, yeah.
Good old Paris said, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Great movie.
Austin Dombrowski said the first Captain America film, and I think he means first Avenger, not the 70s one or the 90s one. Captain America First Avenger. And a thread full of Winter Soldiers. That's a very bold choice. Nick Mastermico, author of The Grey Ghost. You'll know him. He says the first Avenger as well, and the very first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. The dashing Drew Matson said Winter Soldier, It's the only movie from the MCU where 2 villains survive. Not even, like, first of all, the first one that 1 villain survived, let alone 2, right?
Hydra.
Well, he was speaking of Winter Soldier and Crossbones, but yeah, Hydra too. I guess that's 3, right? Anyway, Timothy Warren says Deadpool. Lance Allen of Ghost Panda Comics fame said Days of Future Past and Winter Soldier. Manuel Mendolia, that's right, from Shamaro Cinema on YouTube says Winter Soldier. Jake Brown says Iron Man. Ira Ortiz says Days of Future Past. George Rivera says Blade. Andre Smith says The Avengers, followed by Winter Soldier. And Will Priest says The Punisher. And I don't know which one he fucking means. Anyway, thanks for checking us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're all over the place. Please do like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. And we'll be back with our top 5 Marvel films here on Pop Culture Philosophers. Hey everybody, Rockin' Robbie here, and I am super pumped to announce that Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie is returning. That's right, the very next podcast you hear, the very next thing that we do will be Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie, the brand new episode. That's right, and new episodes are going to be coming every so often, not just Halloween episodes anymore, little kitties. Anyway, I'm super pumped. It's been a while since we've been on the air as Rockin' with Rockin' Robbie, and I am just so excited for you guys to hear what we have in store for you. The very next episode will be the magical mayhem of musicals, music, and mustaches. That's right. What does that mean? I don't know. I guess you're going to have to tune in to find out. That's right. You'll only be able to check this out on our website and YouTube. So be on the lookout for that, and thanks for future rocking with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. Tonight we are talking about Marvel films with, of course, my co-host John Hammertime Holshoe.
Yes.
Justin Goldsmith.
Yo.
And Jonathan Strickland.
I like Gambit.
Oh, wow. Anyway, moving on from that. We have a beer here from Tailgate Beer from Nashville, Tennessee, brought to us by our good buddy Mike the Voice Matthews. Guys, this is a peanut butter milk stout. Let's try it. And let Mike know what we think about it.
Toasting to you, Matthews. Love you, buddy.
That's really, really fucking good.
Whoa.
It's like Reese's Puffs.
It tastes like Reese's Puffs.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, Mike, for the beer. Thank you, Tailgate Beer in Nashville. That's right. If you're in Nashville, check out Tailgate Beer. Good stuff. The peanut butter milk stout, we can attest for that. Really, really good. Back to the social media. That's right. We asked everybody, what are your absolute favorite Marvel films on our social medias? Here are some of our answers. James Donahoe, Spider-Man 2, Blade 2. Brian Weaver, Days of Future Past. Jeremy Day, The Avengers. Eric Mersham, The Avengers. Lynn Cook, The Avengers. We get it, guys. You like The Avengers. And special props out to Mike Matthews for giving us this peanut butter milk stout, which is delicious. Oh, my God. You guys were talking about the Reese's stuff. I'm getting Tootsie Pop now out of it. Really good beer, guys. Check it out. Anyway, Mike the Voice Matthews, he said Iron Man 3. Ooh, that's the best answer we had all night. The most bold, the most daring, just like a Dorito potato chip. Except for it's not a potato chip. But if a Dorito was a potato chip, that would be damned bold and daring.
God, Robbie.
What just happened?
I don't know what's going on with the Doritos there. I know that Robbie likes the special edition Cool Ranch. Was it Lay's?
It was sour cream and onion Doritos.
Sour cream and onion. I just remember it was a weird chip that we stopped at a gas station. What do you want, Robbie? I'm going to get a water or something. Give me some sour cream Doritos.
And a Heineken.
And a Heineken. They had both at that gas station. So we were talking about our favorite actors. We're talking about our favorite Marvel films in general. And we're going to get to the top 5. These aren't necessarily your top 5, we think the best films, but our favorite each top 5. So I'm going to start with Strickland. Your top 5 Marvel films.
Top 5. Number 5, Iron Man. Number 4, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Number 4, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Number 2, X2. Number 1, The Avengers.
Ooh, that's a cool top 5, man.
Yeah.
I think we might have a similar list. That's a really good top 5. Why, of all the Spider-Man films, why did only number 2 make your list?
2 was my favorite. You know, there's so many good Marvel movies. You have the scene with all those scenes with Doc Ock. I love it. And that movie was just great overall.
Alfred Molina was a perfect Otto Octavius. He was so good.
He was.
so good. Made you feel for him, man.
I agree.
And you said X-Men number 2? You put that above. So I don't see Days of Future Past.
It's not
so
on there.
X2 is your favorite of your...
X2 is my favorite of all of them.
And that's X-Men United, right? That's the film. X2, X-Men United.
Yes,
Correct.
yes. Just that whole movie, the pacing was excellent. He opens up with Nightcrawler. It ends with all those crushing blows.
Starts and ends in the White House.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
it's fantastic.
America, bro.
It's uncanny.
And your number 1... And your number 1 was Avengers. What makes that your number 1? Of all these great Marvel films, why Avengers number 1?
I can remember sitting in the theaters and just geeking out the whole. This is the first time, you know, your big groups. You have Avengers, you have Justice League, and to see them to come together like that at the end, and it does the panel on all of them. You have to geek out as a comic book fan, as a fan of superheroes. You have to love that.
There was so much build up for it, man. There was
Absolutely.
no way that it wasn't going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
I remember the hype when Captain America came out, and it was Captain America, the first Avenger.
Yes.
Like, yeah, they're eventually building up to an Avengers film. Like, no way.
No.
They're not going to get everybody together and do a big Avengers. Bullshit.
They did
I stand corrected. Marvel, you've made a mockery of me, Marvel.
That's a really good top 5, Jonathan. For real. Justin, what are your top 5 Marvel films of all time? Favorites?
My number 5 is going to be The Punisher.
Which one?
Thomas Jane, of course.
Okay.
My number 4 is Iron Man 3. I loved it.
Ooh.
Number 3, Winter Soldier. Number 2 is The Avengers, and number 1 is Iron Man.
All right. That's a good top 5, man. I like that. Why, first of all, why is Thomas Jane's Punisher on there? You have mentioned this movie a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Why do you like that movie so much?
It's such a relatable character, the Punisher, because like
You have no wife. You have no children.
Yeah,
How is this movie
you haven't
relatable?
murdered
to
a
you?
I
bunch of
have
people, have
empathy,
you?
for God's sakes.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I
Go
mean,
on.
you can his whole family gets murdered. Chief Brody from Jaws gets murdered. If I saw Chief Brody get murdered while I was on an island with him, I would be really upset too, and I'd probably put on a shirt with a skull and go kill a bunch of people too.
So it just hits you. You just
it's really good. I mean, it's one of the most relatable super heroes. Heroes, Marvel characters. It's a decent enough story, but like the music and the characters and everything, I don't know. I just really like it.
You got Avengers number 1. I get that.
Number 2.
Number 2. Yeah, my bad. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. But you have Winter Soldier at number 3. Now, a lot of our fans on the social media had Winter Soldier as number 1. Why is it number 3, and why is Avengers number 1?
Number 2. It was
Two.
number
My
3
bad.
Winter Soldier. Number
Why
2
is Winter
Avengers,
Soldier-
1 Iron Man.
Behind Avengers.
Because we're doing favorites, not best. If we're doing best, I would say that Winter Soldier probably is the best of all of the Marvel movies because it's just such a good film, so well made. But the Avengers, there was so much build up, and I remember, it all started with Iron Man, and then there was all this hype for what year did Avengers come out?
2012.
12. So you had 4 years of build up between Iron Man when the Marvel Cinematic Universe started and Avengers when when they first showed at the end of Iron Man him talking to Bruce Banner in the bar.
Yeah.
You knew that they were all going to get together at some point, and then it led up to
That was at the end of
happening.
That was at the end of Incredible Hulk. But the end of Iron Man was
Yeah,
when,
yeah.
when Samuel
Fury.
L. Jackson
Yeah.
first shows up. Yeah. Really good stuff. And we know that you are a big Robert Downey Jr. fan.
Yeah.
Everybody that knows you knows that and that listens to this show. You got 2 Iron Man movies on your top 5. No surprise. Why is Iron Man 3 on your list?
Iron Man 3 is actually on there because I love Shane Black so much.
You're Mike Matthews' favorite person right now. He told me earlier, like right before we went on air, like 30 minutes before, he was like, name me a Shane Black movie you've seen that you have not liked.
Yeah, really. I mean,
It's
and Iron Man 3 is, like, out of all the Marvel movies, Iron Man 3 is like a buddy cop movie. It's like the Lethal Weapon of the of the Marvel movies.
Yeah, it's fun, dude.
And the story's good. I love the twist. Spoilers. The Mandarin. When we were watching that movie in the theater, when Ben Kingsley came out of that bathroom, I heard a toothpick snap in Zach Ashley's brain. That drove everybody mental, but that was such a great twist.
Absolutely.
So good.
Fantastic top 5.
Robbie, I'd love to know your top 5 of your personal favorite Marvel films.
Well, my number 5 is 2012's Avengers, the Joss Whedon classic. Number 4 is Iron Man 3 from 2013.
Yeah.
I agree with Goldsmith wholeheartedly on that. Number 3 is 1998's Blade. You can't top how cool that film is. Number 2 is X-Men 2, or my bad, X2, X-Men United from 2003. Love that movie. Best X-Men film. One of my favorite superhero films to date, but not my favorite. My favorite, my friends, is the 2002 classic from Guillermo del Toro, Blade 2.
Nice.
So, your number 1 is... Okay, first off, why didn't Blade 3 make your list?
Blade 3 is a terrible movie, and I do not like that movie.
Is that the one with Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan
Yes, it
Reynolds,
is
yeah.
Ryan
Jessica
Reynolds.
Biel, Heat Wave. Playing
sort of-
Dracula.
I sort of set him up.
I
for
was
that.
super pumped for that movie. It's not good because the first movie had Stephen Norrington directing it, who did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Whatever you think about that movie. The first Blade film is great, and the second Blade film by Del Toro takes what Norrington did and just moves it even further. And I really think that Blade 2 has more to do with what superhero films are today than the first Blade film. Like, I really think that Blade 2 is so amazing. It's so perfect. It's so pristine. It's the best Marvel film to me. It's creepy. It's scary. It made me scared of vampires again. Blade 3 did not do that. Blade 3 had no direction. It was David Goyer, the writer of Blade 1 and 2, directing, and he was battling with Wesley Snipes. It was just, there was a lot of drama on set. It led to an incoherent movie that I just don't like, so it did not make it.
And X2 over Days of Future Past or the original X-Men?
I like Days of Future Past. I like the original X-Men, though it does seem a little bit dated at this time. X-Men United is so good to me because Magneto gets the shine. His plot in part 1 was terrible. That's dumb. Like the whole changing the world leaders into mutants or whatever. It's just dumb. X-Men 2 to me was awesome. Wolverine defending those students in that school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Jean sacrificing herself at the end. Magneto and Mystique talking mad shit the entire fucking time. They're teaming up with the X-Men, which Magneto does a lot, but he's still talking shit. They look at Rogue and they go, "We love what you've done with your hair." Damn, Ian McKellen. He plays the hell out of Magneto, man.
And they have such the first 3 X-Men have such a different feel from the new ones.
And so that makes sense why you have Blade 2 above Blade, because you explained that. And why Iron Man 3? Because of Shane Black? That you rated higher than Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 1.
It's better than Iron Man 1 because, first of all, Tony actually learned something, right? It deals with something. I love how this is the only Marvel film that deals with the psychological impact of a previous film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They deal with what it does to Tony Stark
Yeah, in Avengers.
to know that there are aliens, to be in the portal.
Yeah.
The kid, him and the kid, that's super funny, right?
Yeah.
And it's the best third act of a Marvel film, aside from it and Avengers. Like Iron Man 3's final act with all the suits of armor and Iron Patriot, Rhodey coming out.
Iron Patriot's
That stuff
badass.
is fantastic. It's so good. And just like Justin said, and just like Mike told me, I don't give a fuck what people think about what they did with the Mandarin, because 90 to 95% of the people bitching about how they handled the Mandarin in those movies don't even fucking know what the Mandarin is, who he is. They've never read the comic. They never watched the TV cartoon. They don't fucking know. They just jump on this bandwagon to hate, be like, oh, well, he wasn't the real Mandarin. Who gives a fuck? That shit was funny. Yeah. Dude, when Ben Kingsley came out and you realized he wasn't the Mandarin, that cracked me up. And Guy Pearce was the Mandarin. And he was Fin Fang Foom. And I have been an Iron Man fan since 1986. And as an Iron Man fan, this movie just blew me away and I loved it. And it's my favorite Iron Man film.
Plus, there's a lot of Pepper Potts who you love.
Yeah, absolutely. and she's very strong in that movie. You know, she's leading the company. That movie is so good, and there's a very powerful scene where she's cradling Tony.
Yeah.
And it's so fantastic. It's like Man of Steel. Man of Steel, usually you see the superhero holding the lifeless woman, you know, like as if he's saving her. But the best image that we've gotten out of some modern superhero films is the superhero being cradled by the love of his life. Look at Man of Steel and Lois Lane.
Yeah. Look
at Iron Man 3 and Pepper Potts. These women in these movies are more important than the actual heroes themselves. Holshoe, Hammertime you are. What are your top 5? I want to know. What is your top 5? I guess I should say.
My number 5 would be X2, X-Men United, which, no surprise, seems to be loved by a lot of people. My number 4 is Winter Soldier.
That's on 3 lists.
Yeah, it was Winter Soldier.
Ooh,
Captain America Winter Soldier. Love that film. I think overall, if you look at a lot of the films in, I'd say Marvel in the MCU, or in Marvel Extended Universe, MEU, whatever, I would say that's probably the best film of theirs. I'm going to go with, but not my personal favorite. Number 3, I'm going to go with Iron Man. I mean, that's the first time you see Iron Man on the big screen, and they did so well. My number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Love that film. That's a film that I didn't have high expectations for. It's not one of my favorite Marvel properties, but I went in with low expectations for the film, and I just had so much fun. It's just a fun film. You can't leave that film not having a grin on your face. And my number 1, my favorite, is Days of Future Past, X-Men. Love that film. I was happy to see Bryan Singer return as the director, and it's just an amazing film. And it's just so devastating at the beginning, and just the storyline. Yeah, they changed some things from the book, or from the comics, but I'm happy that they gave the lead role to Hugh Jackman because he was so awesome in it, and it was just a great film.
Iron Man, Winter Soldier. Makes sense. Why is Winter Soldier number 4 and not number 1? Because all of our fans overwhelmingly stated that Winter Soldier is their favorite. All of us, no, not our favorites. Why is it not your favorite?
I think it's a great film. I really like Winter Soldier, the character, but I'll be honest with you, when it comes to Marvel characters, Captain America is not one of my favorite characters.
Okay.
And if I had to do a top 10 or a top 20, however you want to do it, the original Captain America would be very low on my list. I'm not a big Captain America. Again, I don't dislike Captain America. Actually, I love Chris Evans. But Captain America as a character is just not one of my favorite Marvel characters.
You got Guardians on the Galaxy here, which a lot of our fans did, but none of us here at the table did. Why did you have it? Like, we didn't have Guardians on our list. Why Guardians?
I love the film so much.
So high, number 2.
Yeah, I just love the film so much. Again, you could not be a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, and most people that know Guardians of the Galaxy don't know that version anyway.
Yes.
But you can just go in and just enjoy the film. It was. I told people months beforehand. I was like, people are gonna have Rocket the Raccoon costumes and figures. I'm like, he's gonna blow up.
Yeah,
watch
it happened.
Mark my words. And I also think that I forget his name there.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Thank you. I couldn't think of his last name. I love him on Parks and Recs, and to see him take this role of a lead character as Star-Lord, I think he suits the character well. I just loved the film. Again, it was just a film that I didn't know the property really well. I didn't know why they were making it. It looked like a cool concept. I just didn't maybe because I had such low expectations. I just really enjoyed the film. Blew me away.
The other thing, you got 2 X-Men films on here. You got Days of Future Past. You got X-Men 2. X-Men 2 was on me and Strickland's list.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty high.
Oh, yeah.
You got it very low, and you asked both of us, why is it higher than Days of Future Past? You got Days of Future Past as number 1. Why is it number 1, and why is the other X-Men film number 5?
I think that X2 is great. But I think Days of Future Past, I think the story, in defense of X2, they're taking a couple different comic books and they're kind of building their own story. Where Days of Future Past just stole a great story arc. They're like, oh, we're going to take the story arc, we're going to make changes for the film version, but they took a great story arc that was already present. So they had the benefit of taking, and they would never got away with that in the first film or the second film or the third film. It just seems like once Bryan Singer was back, Fox was like, fuck it, you do whatever you want to do. We trust you. And he's like, oh, we're going to do this storyline, this epic storyline. And it is epic, especially the beginning. It's just so horrific seeing them die. And then him going back. It's just, again, I think it's probably one of the most epic storylines. And on top of that, and the reason there's 2 X-Men films in my top 5, X-Men's my favorite Marvel property.
I want to thank everybody for listening. And final thoughts on the Marvel films, Jonathan Strickland. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Final thoughts on Marvel movies in general. I am thankful for Marvel films. You know, they're a lot of them are lighthearted. They're funny. You can take a little kid with you to most of them, and they can see it and enjoy it. And I'm thankful for the ones that are a little more darker. I like the darker tone, and I'm thankful for superheroes in general. They give us hope. I inspire to be more like them. That is all.
Speaking of an inspiration, Goldsmith, final thoughts, and thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. I really like Jonathan's answer. Just
steal his answer.
Like I said earlier, it may sound cliche to be on a podcast or something like that, but the Iron Man movie really did change me. There's something that everybody can learn from a superhero story, whether it be on the screen or in a book. Go watch and go read.
Very, very wise, my friend. And I want to thank all the listeners for checking us out. And be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We have a great YouTube channel, Pop Culture Philosophers. Check us out. And be sure to subscribe on iTunes if you're not listening on iTunes right now. My final thoughts. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is great. But don't sleep on all the other Marvel films. Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man are the reason that we have Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. And, in fact, them teaming up in the Avengers. I don't care who makes it, by the way. But please, for the love of all that is holy, please, somebody make a good Fantastic Four film. I'm super proud that Deadpool was not on anybody's top 5. Excelsior, true believers. Make mine Marvel. Enough said.
We appreciate you tuning in and listening to the show. And if you like Marvel films, you might like Marvel Comics. So if you enjoyed the films, maybe you go to a comic book store, support your local comic book store. Marvel, DC, IDW, Image, bunch of other independent comic. I think Valiant's back. Again, there's got a lot of great comics out there. If you like Iron Man, there's an Iron Man comic. He's in the Avengers comic. So please support your local comic book store. And again, we get these great films. There's a great universe out there to explore. And we appreciate you tuning in. Like Robbie said, popculturephilosophers.com, on the YouTube, on the iTunes, on Android. Check us out next time. Same Marvel channel, same Marvel time. We're going to be talking about Marvel's parent company, Disney.
Disney.
We're talking about Disney films. And
Disney
not just
podcast.
Animated. Disney across the board.
Ooh, Disney
They've
films.
done a lot of great properties, from Tron to The Jungle Book.
Aladdin.
And Aladdin in between.
Aladdin, apparently. Thank you for sticking that in there. As always, I'm John Hammertime Holshoe.
And I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups.
Thanks for joining us in the Huntsville Attic. Catch you next time.